Hello, and welcome to the March 2023 Real Estate Market Update. We're going to switch things up a bit this month and start with our local data, some interesting information to talk about locally, and then we'll move on to what's going on nationally. The media continues to push the narrative that interest rates are killing the spring home buying season. Yet facts do not support this theory in the greater Phoenix area. While interest rates may be keeping some buyers out of the market, the impact seems to be the greatest on sellers. When sellers cannot comparably replace their current interest rates if they buy, they stay put. So, although listings are far more abundant than last year, they're still roughly 40% below the normal range of 20,000 to 24,000. Here are some interesting facts reported by Tina Tambor of the Cromford Report. New listings added to the Arizona Regional MLS are the lowest ever recorded, going back at least 23 years. This may be shocking to some as there has been a 200% increase in supply year over year, but this time last year, supply was merely 4,820 active listings. At 9,001, contracts are at their fourth lowest count since 2005. The lowest counts were in 2006 through 2008, and normal range is around 11,000 to 13,000. Low-level demand combined with even lower supply equals a seller's market for the greater Phoenix area. Not a crazy seller's market like the last 2 years, but since coming out of a buyer's market last December, sale price measures have stopped dropping and have risen a modest 3.5% so far. To summarize, we are in a gentle seller's market. Demand is below normal, as indicated by contract rates, but supply is even more constrained. At the moment, only 5 cities remain in a buyer's market: Queen Creek, Maricopa, Buckeye, Casa Grande, and Sun City West. This is to be expected as the outer areas of the valley tend to be the first to tip a buyer's market and the last to recover. Supply is a slow-moving number and does not appear to be on the rise. Recent changes in FHA loans, which increased loan limits to $530,150, combined with reduced expenses and sellers' current willingness to help buy down buyers' interest rates, may encourage first-time homebuyers to buy. If demand takes off as it's threatening to do, we may once again find ourselves in the midst of a strengthening seller's market in defiance of the headlines. And now we'll take a look at what's happening nationally.
Let's start with this graphic that shows where we started off the year. We were seeing good buyer demand activity in the market. In the first part of February, interest rates dipped down into the fives, and then we hear some uncertain economic news. And then the interest rates began to climb again, and that's caused uncertainty and in some cases panic. We get some good news on inflation, and we can see interest rates are in the low sixes and high fives, and there's good buyer activity. Then negative news hits on inflation and sends things a little bit higher, just over 7% in interest rates. And we can see what that does to buyer demand. And that's the reality right now. It's worth revisiting that what influences interest rates is the 10-year Treasury. You can see the interest rates over the last 30 years and the 10-year Treasury yield. Over the last 50 years, the 30-year mortgage rate has moved in unison with the 10-year Treasury, a symbiotic relationship with a spread of between 2 and 1.7%, meaning take the 10-year Treasury and add 1.75% to it, and you get the 30-year fixed interest rate. What's different now is the spread between the 10-year Treasury and the 30-year fixed. It has widened. In the past decades, the average spread was the 1.7%. The first of this year, it was 2.7%, almost a percent higher than the average. So interest rates continue to be a major factor in the real estate market. However, not to the level or the degree that many have predicted. The bigger challenge remains the low levels of available inventory. Many expected a shift to an oversupply of inventory. Now, some markets have more available homes for sale than others, but the story of the last few years, and certainly through COVID, has been less inventory. Here's a look at total listing count going all the way back to 2017. And we see in 2017, 18, and 19, then COVID comes in the spring of 2020, and you see very clearly that inventory starts to fall. We know that the meaning of home changed. People started working in their homes. Kids were going to school from their homes. Everything revolved around the home. And then interest rates sank to 2.75%. So lots of people jumped in, deciding that it was a good time to purchase a home that met their current needs. While inventory has risen year over year, it's still below where it was in 2019. This graphic from Realtor.com shows the active monthly listings in the last 7 Februaries. This is an important point to emphasize. When looking at the numbers right now, beware of comparing to 2021, 2022, or even 2023. Those pandemic years, well, they're atypical. So it's important to go back to pre-pandemic times, the normal times for real estate. So 2017, 18, and 19. So 577,000 active listings in February of this year compared to over 1 million in the years prior to the pandemic. And that is the bigger issue. Even with the higher interest rates, month over month, we've depleted even more inventory. Inventory is down about 6% February over January in the most recent data. You can see that all states are between 0 and 15% down across the country. None show an increase in inventory. And this graph is particularly interesting. It shows single-family housing units that have been completed, and it goes all the way back to the 70s. For 14 straight years, we've been below the 50-year average in the number of units brought to market. So when we have 14 straight years of lack of building homes, it stands to reason that we end up with a deficit. Then COVID hits, demand spikes, we have historically low interest rates, and we don't have available inventory, and that causes prices to increase. And that's when we saw the frenzy of the bidding wars. There are a multitude of reasons for what occurred, and lack of available homes is prominent among them all. Depending on which forecaster, from Realtor.com to Moody's, they all say that we're undersupplied, anywhere from 1.5 million to 5 million homes. Now, each forecaster, they measure things a bit differently, but the commonality that they all have is that there aren't enough homes on the market for the number of people that want to buy them. And here's what that leads to. This graphic from Case-Shiller, FHA, and Moody's shows how much same home prices have fallen from the peak. Now, the peak was June of last year, and the most recent information is through December. It runs in arrears because same home sales is the most accurate measurement. Moody's shows that it's fallen 1%, FHA 1.6%, and Case-Shiller 2.7%. So that's not a runaway train of, say, 20% depreciation that many predicted. A lot of that is due to the undersupply, the long-term undersupply of inventory. So by far, the most common question for many potential buyers, should I buy a home right now? Is it cheaper to rent, or should I buy a home? Well, 3 things that are important about understanding this question. Number 1, rent always goes up. This graphic shows median asking rent since 1988. It's always gone up. Certainly in the last couple years, it's gone up dramatically. When you buy a home, your mortgage payment remains fixed. So key thought number 1, rent goes up while mortgage payments can bring stability to that part of the largest expense of most everyone's household budget. Number 2, prices, well, they go up. This is the Home Price Expectation Survey as of the 4th quarter of this year. And oh, by the way, they're projecting 1.6% depreciation in 2023. So appreciation may not occur in 2023. It may take until 2024. The Home Price Expectation Survey suggests prices may come down slightly. Point is, if you wait for prices to go down and wait for interest rates to go down, what do you think everybody else is going to do? Going back the last 30 years, the average appreciation in the country was close to 300%. It's 289%. So we can say confidently, homes go up in value and rents always go up, meaning homeowners can secure their housing payment through buying a home, and it's an appreciating asset. And rents, well, they always go up. And the third point is home ownership is a builder of equity. Let's take an average price of, say, $400,000. Based on the projections over the next 5 years, that's $50,000 in equity. And that's a much, much more normal real estate environment. This is the 2022 third quarter CoreLogic Homeowner Equity Insight Report. It shows that over 1 year alone, homeowners gained on average $34,000 in equity. And that's a year-over-year percentage increase of 15.8% for U.S. homeowners with mortgages. These are big numbers, and while a lot of people are worried right now in this moment of up and down for home prices that it might impact their equity, it's important to remember that home ownership, well, it's a long game. This is the percent change in home prices over the past 5 years. So the national average is 58.4%. So home values have increased almost 60% over the past 5 years. So anyone who's been in their home for 5 years, 6 years, they're looking at a 60% increase. Now, of course, the numbers, they do vary by market, and you can see state by state what those numbers are and your local area.
Well, that wraps up our March 2023 real estate market update. A lot of indicators that we're in a fairly healthy market, and the data is showing no signs of a crash in the near future, despite what many headlines are saying. Now, be sure to tune in next month as we will continue to dissect the data and follow market trends. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or would like specific data in your area, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next month.